Welcome into the Wealthy Life. Today, we've got a truly special episode lined up for you. We're sitting down with someone who's made an impact on and off the field, Kansas City current champion, legend, entrepreneur, all-around powerhouse, Kristen Hamilton. We got a great episode. She just recently announced her retirement, which is why we wanted to bring her on, talk about that next transition, that next chapter of life. So we'll learn more about her career in this episode, the struggles, the successes, and how she's balanced being an athlete with becoming an entrepreneur and how she's approaching this new retirement. Stay tuned.
Really excited for this episode and the first official guest on Wealthy Life. Very successful soccer player in the professional women's league. Good friend of mine, entrepreneur, and all things very cool, Kristen Hamilton. And we're going to dig into a little bit of her journey to this point. Because of the professional women's soccer league in the United States and almost the mobility of teams kind of selling and closing and transitioning and new names, like that's not quite typical with the more established league, like the NFL, right? Like obviously like the Raiders moved, but how is that like as you're getting traded, drafted, and recruited from different teams?
Yeah, it's an interesting just kind of landscape. Before this most recent CBA, we had no say in anything. So in terms of being traded, kind of all of those things, like a typical American sports league, you were able to just get called one day and you were off the next to wherever you got traded to, which is kind of crazy. So that was a really big win for us in this new CBA. But in terms of, there are a lot of teams that started out with one individual owner and they weren't maybe able to sustain the early years of the league and maintain through that growth. So a lot of teams have had to fold, move on, get sold. This team actually came back to Kansas City, being bought from Utah, that had originally moved to Utah. So it was kind of a crazy landscape and dynamic, but it's starting to stabilize a little bit, which is nice. And people, again, with the CBA, with teams being more established and stable, being able to have just a little more stability in their lives and careers.
Well, and the coolest part in the last few years is I've gotten to witness from getting to know you is like the advancement of the league, the treatment of players, women in sports and especially soccer, because the amount of people who were paying real attention and sending real money to that part, was just not that large. And like just a few years ago, it's completely changed. And especially in Kansas City, which has oddly become like the mecca of soccer and then really women's soccer with, the KC Current.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Like I said, the past 11 years, I've seen pretty much everything. When I joined the league, it was kind of just this sentiment that we were just grateful to have a league. It was nobody ever came in to get rich. Nobody came in thinking that, we were going to, have like these incredible, careers, I guess, because the stability of women's soccer in the US has been so all over the place. There was 3 leagues prior that all folded within 3 years. So the different business plan for this one was we're not going to pay people as much to start. And that looked like us literally our minimum salary when I came into the league in 2014 was $6,800 for the year.
Oh my gosh. So everyone had to have part-time jobs.
Everybody. You had part-time jobs. We stayed with host families.
Yeah.
We, side hustles all the time. We actually ended up having a campaign that was like, no more side hustles, like pay us more, please.
How long that last?
It got us to our new CBA. So, it made some.
So protesting like that does work.
It worked. It worked.
And not to say that you were like the reason, but it took people like you who are saying, hey, like, pay us what we're worth. And I think the interesting part too is like the pay you what you're worth thing is, it's a challenge because you're not in on the numbers with, the viewing, the tickets, the leagues or whatever, but you do understand that the perceived value, and especially I think this is really true with NIL, right? Like don't pay players because they couldn't get played at all just a few years ago. But knowing that they're bringing in millions and millions of dollars for, viewing and ticket sales and jerseys and all this stuff. And I think that at least from my knowledge and assimilation on like women's sports and especially like women's soccer is that towards like, hey, like we see growing interest, we see, this added value. And so allow us to really be here to fulfill that total value.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting dynamic because it's like, what comes first, the investment
or
the viewership, or how, chicken before the egg.
Yeah.
It's like, are we going to invest millions of dollars into all of this marketing in hopes that we get people there? Or are we going to try to get people there and then we can invest all the millions? So it took a while to get to a point where we felt like you were going to stadiums besides Portland. They were the only stadium that would, get 20,000 plus fans.
Crazy.
Back in 2014, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But other places you're going and you're getting 500 fans, you're getting 2,000 fans. So it was hard. It was a grind. We had to make ourselves extremely accessible to the fans to keep the draw going. And now we're kind of seeing a funny shift in like, we can't make ourselves as accessible.
Yeah.
But they expect us to be still as accessible. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic too. But yeah, I mean, we've seen the investment that the Longs have put in here and it pays off. I played in teams, specifically North Carolina, where people in North Carolina have no idea that there's even a women's team.
Yeah.
And you can't drive anywhere in Kansas City without seeing our colors, without seeing our branding. And so, I mean, for me, seeing it firsthand, I'm like, the investment has to come first and then it will drive success in sales. And people want to watch. People are getting more interested in it. The women's national team has always been so successful.
Yeah.
And I think just giving us a space that we can thrive in, like it will be a good investment. It's not just a charity.
Yeah. Well, and that's the crazy part. I mean, it's truly like investing in startup companies, and it's a startup league. And then it's specifically, each town and each team, and you have to have the talent that supports the investment and all this. And so it is an interesting dynamic because then you can look at the stands and go, there's 500 people here. We like, obviously this game's at a loss, right? And so, but for how long? And obviously it takes really top tier talent to support those growing teams. And it's funny too, because I know that there's a whole shift with the NIL and then even people's issues with, player treatment and fan engagement, because at the end of the day, and I've always thought this was funny, is like, you can have the best athletes in the entire world, but without the fans, right, there's nothing. Like, if no one's watching it, you can be the best soccer player, football player, wherever, like a Tom Brady. But if no one's watching, he's not a rich, successful person. And then nobody cares. It's like the tree falling in the woods, nobody hears. Right. And so it is a strange dynamic. And I do believe the coolest part about college sports and really women's sports is like, you're there because you wanted to be there. Mm-hmm. Like there's other careers that you go to probably make more money, faster growth. But you're like, I care about this sport. I want to be entertaining. I want to be successful. And I think that's where you could actually see that passion on the court, on the field, because it's kind of like underpaid for the effort and then really trying and caring. And then you're now dealing with like what you mentioned, like, okay, like we're starting to have notoriety and money and attention, and then dealing with that from a fan access standpoint. Because people are like, well, you're going to wait here for 2 hours to sign your jersey. And it's like, maybe not, right? Because then I need to evolve. And then, we're definitely seeing that on the college piece too, to where it's like kids are getting traded, from pure money deals, and they don't care at all by the fans. And so it's an odd dynamic. So how are you kind of, how have you seen you and your teammates, make that intention by still being integrated with the community, the fans, and what kind of brought you there? Because Kansas City, puts you on their back. Like, Kansas City loves the Current, right? They love the women's soccer here. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think because we're getting paid more on the field, that we aren't as necessarily busy off of the field.
Sure.
So, before everybody has all these jobs and everybody's like just trying to grind, make it work at all, to where now it's like, okay, we can actually just focus on soccer. So now we have all of these support staff that support, community initiatives. And now we're available to go and integrate in the community and do those things. And we want to do those things because it's not like, oh, we're just doing it, not to say for charity. Like, yeah, it's great to do that. But like before, we were like literally making $0. So like everything we did had to be for had to have a benefit to it. And so I think that being able to be integrated into the community now is like such a privilege. And there's so many initiatives that our organization puts together that, if you want to be involved in something, there's a way for you to be involved in it. So it's really cool. We do all these surveys and all these questionnaires of like things you're interested in things you're passionate about, and then they go out and find ways for you to be involved in that way. So it's been really cool. And obviously for us, like our fans show up on game day. We can't go around and sign everything.
Sure.
But when we're out in the community and we're going and doing these events, that gives them just extra opportunity to come and see us and connect with us. And I think that was, we'll talk about this further, I think later, but that was kind of a big draw for us to start Pitchside Coffee. It was like to be able to connect with the community on a totally different level and a more personal level that we can't necessarily do on the field anymore because we're getting 12,000, 13,000 fans at games. We can't wait around and sign everything anymore. So it just gives us a different avenue to be able to connect with them all.
Yeah. And then it perpetuates, right? So you're connecting with people, you're getting to sign this and build that rapport and relationship. And then people feel like they're a part of the team and the community there. And then they're coming back, they're buying the jerseys, and then they spend more dollars. And then the economics of it really does work, which is, I think we've seen that in real time here in Kansas City. And as you mentioned, and that's the kind of very fun, cool, and unique part about yourself is, how did you drive your entrepreneurship spirit probably initially out of need and demand of I need more money because the salaries early on was not sustaining your lifestyle. And then, from real estate and then to your other ventures, how did you pick that? And then how did, really off the field, professionally, how did that all percolate and how did that all get started?
Yeah. So like you kind of touched on, it was definitely more of a need at the start. It was always, for me, it was like, okay, if I want to continue to play soccer, I have to make ends meet. I have to make more money. So my first year out of college, I actually tore my ACL my very first season and went home, was doing rehab. But then I was like going and working at a credit union, doing accounting, like graduated with my finance degree. I was like, okay.
We love that.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, let's make this work. And went back, started the next year. Then I was like in season being like, okay, how on earth am I going to feed myself? Then it's like, well, let's start selling my cleats, selling my old shoes, selling things on Facebook Marketplace, like generating some sort of income. Then I'm, coming home in the off season, I'm driving for DoorDash. I'm like full on just grinding.
Yeah, just pure hustle.
Yeah, just to be able to play soccer for fun, like pretty much for fun, not even for a living at this
professionally,
point. But professionally. Yeah. But I always say we paid to be professional athletes. Like we really did. So
interesting.
Then at one point, I feel like instead of kind of those like go get a job, it started to turn into, Airbnb became kind of big. And I don't think I'm supposed to say this out loud, but we started getting team provided housing, and on away trips, I would leave for the weekend and I'd Airbnb my apartment house. I really don't think that would have been legal, or like it would have been very frowned upon probably.
The time has passed. We're fine.
Exactly.
We're fine.
Statute of limitations.
Yeah.
There or something.
Do what you got to do, right? To survive.
Exactly. Got to hustle. And everybody was like, you're nuts. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, but all my groceries and all my bills are paid for the month. So I don't know who's, I think I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
So that kind of slowly evolved into, at one of those points in the off season, I actually got my real estate license in Colorado and was just like, okay, this might be something I'm interested in, kind of put that on the back burner, and then came to Kansas City, really felt like it was a place I could start establishing some roots, purchase the house here, and then end up getting my real estate license here as well. And that's been really fun and a great way to just kind of make some extra income as well. And again, it's something that I've always been passionate about.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a fun little venture. And then continue on from that. I think at this point I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And
by technicalities, absolutely.
Right. So me and my friends sat down, some of my teammates, almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy, and started our little coffee shop, Pitchside Coffee.
Coffee truck to start.
Yeah. So that was the whole thing. We're like, we don't have enough money. We don't make enough money to do a brick and mortar. Like, we can't just be like, woohoo, let's start a new venture and fund it fully. And, we started with maxed out credit cards and got a trailer from this guy, and he's awesome. We talk to him often.
Yeah.
So just started our little trailer, started kicking that off. And then we ended up opening our brick and mortar coffee shop down here in the Crossroads about 2.5 months ago now.
Yeah. crazy. And so to
journey.
to give some awesome credit to Kristen, and not only, those stories, but has rental properties. And so moved, different states and different cities for the league and playing professional soccer, and then kept those homes and has rental properties and tenants and managing those people. Then obviously on top of that, the real estate brokerage with the real estate license to be able to help people and players, obviously buy and sell their homes. And then, pitch side, like you said, and any good business has started this way, is a great idea and maxed out credit cards.
Yeah.
And I think the most impressive part about you is like, it's, no fear, right? Because failure is going to happen. And it's just, the idea. And even when we talked 2 years ago, I was like, hey, I go, do you understand this venture is probably not going to be financially successful? And you were just kind of like, shut up. And then you're like, we're going to do it anyways. And
thanks for your input.
yeah. I mean, but the reality is though, is like every entrepreneur can understand that too. Because it's like, one, no one can tell me different. And then two is like, it's just like, shoot first, ask questions later. Right. Like we're just going to launch this thing. We're going to figure it out. And then you hustled too. It's not just the screaming affirmations in the mirror, right? It's not like, oh, this coffee truck's going to be successful and I'm going to have a great day. It's like, we're going to say those things too, say our prayers, and then also like grind for free material, grind for free stuff, like ask people, shop around, whatever. And you just truly bootstrapped it and got to the point where you have a brick and mortar, you have employees, you have contractors, you have sales, you have, cost of goods, like all these things. And it takes that, not only like the idea, but really the consistency and the grind and like figuring it out. Mm-hmm. And that's where, a compliment to you to where it's just, that's what it takes. And you were just like, yeah, of course, we're going to head down this path and we're going to make it happen.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's, like you said, it's just figuring it out. I mean, I don't know. People are like, how do you do this? How do you have time for this? How do you know how to do this? I'm like, I don't know how to do any of it. Like, I literally don't. I don't know how, but I'm going to figure it out because I don't know. I'm an intelligent person, I think. Yeah. And I don't know, you just Google things sometimes and ask people, ask mentors, ask people who've done it. Like you just make it happen and make it work. And I don't know. I've always been that way. So
if we're talking there, so what's the biggest off the field from an entrepreneurial standpoint? What's the biggest learning piece you've gotten of like something that you didn't know prior and you only learned after you did it? And then I want to hear, biggest win and biggest loss.
Oof. Okay. I feel like the hardest thing as like a professional athlete and somebody who's been successful in that space is like feeling like I should know how to do everything and not, or like that we should know as a group of 6 professional athletes, like should know how to do everything.
Sure.
And with all degrees, like I'm like, we've got this, but it was asking people for help and not being afraid to ask people for help. In how willing people have been to help. Maybe that's slightly because of who we are and what we do. Sure, it's a possibility.
Yeah. Which you worked for, by the way.
Exactly. Right? I worked to get it and be able to use this status, 100%.
You built it and then it was there for you.
Right. And I think that we have really learned or tried to lean into just asking people for, like you said, for things, for equipment, for advice, for help in any way. I think that that's been kind of the biggest thing that I did not go in anticipating like doing or really leaning on. I just feel like we have this, I don't know, probably ego to an extent that's like, no, we're fine. We got it on our own. Yeah. So I think having that, just my
the humility to be able to ask.
100%.
Yeah. Especially
like, I actually don't know everything and like, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to do things and fail and try and grow and figure it out along the way. So I feel like that was kind of the biggest.
Yeah. That's huge.
A lot of licensing and permits.
a lot of the things that you quite literally had no idea about.
Yeah, literally. I'm like going down, E&I are going down to the state building how many times being like, so what do we do? And they're like, let me see what forms you have and like things like that. But I'm like, that's just a matter of like literally going out and asking and doing things again. Kind of thing, so
I mean, power of humility.
Yeah.
And then also too is like just the grit.
Yeah.
Figuring it out, the commitment to say, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to ask my way, research my way, fail my way through. I think that's huge. So if you were having to kind of wrap up and identify, maybe a big loss, failure, or challenge when it comes to the entrepreneurial side, and then biggest win or success, what would you identify that as? And how you dealt with it?
I think I can't necessarily off the top of my head be like, okay, we completely failed at this, which is great.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of challenges. And I think that the biggest of them all is, we started this coffee shop specifically I'll go into is with 6 owners.
Which is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people. And I think that it's been a challenge just delegating tasks, managing that around all of our schedules as professional athletes as well.
Yeah.
So, when a decision's trying to be made and people are like, well, I have a massage and I have a meeting and I have a podcast and I have this. And it's like, well, when are we going to get on a call to discuss, business topics? It's a lot easier to get 2 people in a room than 6. Sure. So I think that has been definitely a struggle. I actually think with opening the brick and mortar, things having a physical space and a location that we can meet at has kind of helped a little bit with those things. In terms of biggest win, I would say just the fact that, like you said, like we bootstrapped this, we didn't go out and raise money. We are female athletes who don't have millions of dollars, and we did it all from just grind and hustle. And like I said, asking for help, asking for advice. And we were able to go from an idea to our coffee truck to when we opened that coffee truck being like, a brick and mortar is completely out of the question. There's like no chance we're able to do that. And we're able to shift that into within a year to actually having a physical space and being able to walk in every day and see people in there with KC Current jerseys on, shirts on, hats on, coming in and watching games on our TVs, just being able to see the community gather in a space that we've created has by far been the biggest win.
Yeah. I mean, it's been so much fun to see that rapid success and growth too. And it's really just like throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. And it does. And like when we first talked, you were like, truck, no brick and mortar at all. And then like less than 12 months after, really it was like, all right, here's the brick and mortar. We're going to make this thing happen. And, on challenges, like with different owners and partners and stuff like that, people do miss often. They think like, oh, who is majority and who's voting this or whatever. And like, that really only comes into play when you're talking about board members and like really big companies or kind of financial struggles. But when you're with your friends or partners or teammates or whoever starting a company, it really is just like, guys, can we agree on something? And the more people you have, the more ideas you have and the more challenges you have to kind of create a unanimous, front forward. And so with that, I'll kind of wrap and say, is there anything, and you've shared a lot of great experience and advice and all of that, is there something that maybe one tip or encouragement that you could give to an aspiring entrepreneur or maybe someone who's like been contemplating an idea to say, hey, I want to do this thing or I want to make that leap, but they're not sure because whether it's the money or the time or maybe not the right partners, what would be like, 1 or 2 really good tips for them?
I think that, if I'm going to kind of tailor this to athletes and maybe female athletes in the space that want to start a business and, have these ideas, I think that it sounds so probably cliche and like lame, but like just go for it. And if it's something you're passionate about, you will make it work. Like, that's just how I feel about it. Yeah. I'm like, you will like go ask questions, go talk to people, go, research online, all that you need to research. But if it's something that you're truly wanting to do and you're passionate about it, like there are ways to fund businesses. There are people to help if you want to get investors. There's a lot of ways to make things work depending on what your issues are, what your hesitations or holdups are. So I think just committing to something, going for it, and like just knowing that it's not going to turn out in the end exactly how you plan it to, but just be adaptable, go with the flow. Like you kind of said, throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah. And that really is the case. And I think people are just scared of that leap and that jump and, fair enough. But again, if it's something you're passionate about, I think that, and you have a good business plan and something behind you, I think that it will work out for you.
Yeah.
And whether it fails, but you learn a lot, like that still to me is a win. So yeah, I think just committing to something that you believe in and going for it, and asking people for help.
Yeah. I love that. Just do it. And it is funny because I'm always frustrated because I'm like, I don't want to quote Nike here, but it really is. It's like, just begin, just do it. And I think so many people who have ideas or passions, they get stuck on the paralysis by analysis and they just never begin. And my favorite concept there is like, have a volume 1 so you can have a volume 10.
That's what I literally was just going to actually add on to this is like, we put out our first bag of beans and it looked terrible. Like
I have the bag. Not great.
Exactly. I go back and look and I'm like, but we started somewhere. We created our own blend of coffee and we said, okay, here's a white bag. We're going to slap a sticker on and like, let's start selling. And now today we just dropped our new packaging and it's like, it's so much better. It's so much more elevated and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But
you needed that first one.
Exactly. You have to have the first one to then know what you don't like and what you do like. And then you just move on. And I feel like you always just have to just drop prototype 1.
Sure.
And then move on from there. And like people will buy that and then you'll make it adaptations and you'll change and then you'll make it better. And then it's just a process. And I was literally going to add on to that. It's like, just drop the first bag of beans,
That's Kristen's quote. That's amazing.
Well, it's really interesting to kind of hear you kind of talk through this entire journey, Kristen, because I think, most people just assume you've had a decorated career, as you mentioned, almost playing 30 years of soccer. You've accomplished a lot, but it sounds like, you're probably more proud of what you've done outside of soccer than everything you've accomplished on the field.
Yeah, 100%. I think, soccer is a game and it comes and goes, and what you build off of the field. I mean, soccer has allowed me to create these connections and create these opportunities, and I'm very grateful for that. And I would not be in the position I am without that. Sure. But I am, extremely proud of kind of what comes off the field, because people often, I think, misjudge athletes and think that, we don't have much going on, and
just the muscles.
We can do is go kick a ball, or all we can go do is run around on a field. And so I'm very proud to kind of showcase what we can do off the field.
Well, I think your story is an inspiration for a lot of athletes, young athletes too, that are kind of looking to see, hey, where does my journey take me? What else can I accomplish besides whatever sport I'm talented at? And I think hearing this will kind of help, I think, inspire other people to do that. But let's dig into more of the financial side and kind of that life. In our next episode, we're going to spend a little bit more time with you. Appreciate that part of it, but really cool hearing your journey and everything that you've been through so far, but excited to hear this other part as well. So thank you, Kristen and Harrison. Great work. I know this is something you really care about. I know you're passionate about this interview and having the guest on and really be able to tell her story. So I think we're able to do that here in this first episode.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.